So Module 1, we're going to look at an overview of IBM Bluemix and cloud in general. For a developer, you really want to be able to develop rapidly, deploy your applications and have those applications scale. You want to be able to use the languages, the computer languages that you want to, and you want to be able to get a very fast time to value. Quickly. For the enterprise, they want to have a secure platform and they need it to integrate with their existing infrastructure. The enterprise wants a flexible deployment model and they want to be able to manage the full life cycle of the application. So Bluemix provides these capabilities. We have the ability to create, develop and deploy your application, and we also have a growing catalogue of services covering many different areas. When we look at a modern platform like IBM Bluemix, there are certain workloads that work better on the platform. And these are typically extending an existing application. So if you want to add a new user experience, such as a mobile channel, or attract a more graphical UI, or target different devices such as a tablet, you may want to add a public API to an existing application. Or you may be looking at new systems of engagement, so creating new applications that your end user will interact with. These are all perfect workloads to go onto the IBM Bluemix platform. So just what is IBM Bluemix? It's based on the open standard Cloud Foundry platform, and it runs on top of IBM Software Cloud Infrastructure as a Service. It allows you to take your code and deploy it to a runtime of your choice using a language of your choice. We have flexible deployment options using the Cloud Foundry, which we'll talk about in depth as we go through this workshop. But we also have the ability to bring in a Docker container or an OpenStack virtual machine to give you that flexibility to have the deployment choice that you need. We've got a wide range of services, and we have the option to allow you to bring a service to the Bluemix platform. And we provide facilities to integrate with existing infrastructure within your own data centers. So we look at the different models to run your application. We've got Cloud Foundry, which is built on the open standard Cloud Foundry product. That gives you the highest level of automation, but you have to program to that programming model. Docker containers allow you to bring existing Docker containers or create new containers, and that gives you the ability to move that container from IBM Bluemix to different infrastructure, and it does give you more flexibility of what's running inside that container. And then with virtual machines, you have full control of what's running in that virtual machine, but you then have more responsibility for operating that application. Traditionally, a developer had full control of the infrastructure. They could specify exactly the environment they needed their application to run in. The enterprise or the organization then had to manage the infrastructure, purchase it, configure it, install it, and then manage the applications in that runtime. Then we saw the introduction of an infrastructure as a service. This is where a service provider took away the CapEx requirements and set up the basic infrastructure for the cloud. So the operator provided the networking layer, the storage, the compute power, and usually the virtualization engine. On top of that, we then laid down the operating system, middleware, and then the runtimes and applications. So as a developer and as an enterprise running services on an infrastructure, they really just have to look at the operating system upwards. We're now seeing the emergence of a platform as a service. This is where the service provider provides everything up to the application runtime. So they fully manage the environment and the runtime. And as a developer, we just care about what our application does and the data that the application needs. What a customer actually wants is probably the software as a service. That's where they just acquire, as a service, the business functionality they need. They don't need to worry about where that's or how that is provided to them. They just consume an application on demand. As we move from traditional to software, obviously the costs become lower. We save on OpEx and we get a faster, more agile environment. But we do lose the ability to customize that environment. So moving into Bluemix, there's a few things that we need to understand in terms of how Bluemix works. The first thing is how it's separated, how you actually manage the different areas of Bluemix, how you can control how you manage the resources within the Bluemix environment. So when you signed up as a user and you got an account. And that account gave you an organization. For your 30-day free trial, that organization will be the same name as your user ID and it'll be your email address. Within that organization, you can actually slice and dice the resources however you want. And we call these spaces. So a space is a logical grouping of all the resources that you're going to consume within Bluemix. And it's up to you how you want to manage those spaces. A space also allows you to share a group of resources. So I can share resources with another user at a space level. Just because I call a space production, it doesn't mean I'm going to get a higher level of service. These are just groupings that you want to do to make the organization of your work easier. And then within your account, you'll also have regions. So Bluemix has been organized so we have separate regions. We've got 2 regions running today, but as we go through this year, more regions will be introduced. We've got the US South region that works out of Dallas, and we've got the European GB region that works out of London. And these regions are isolated. So when you deploy an application or put data into a region, it stays in that region. It doesn't move around into different regions. So when you're looking at your spaces, a space lives within a region. As well as the public cloud offering for Bluemix, we're also introducing a dedicated, which gives you a dedicated set of physical hardware running in an IBM data center on soft layer. And that allows you to have full control of that hardware. So it's not going to be shared with anybody else. It also allows you to set up things like a virtual link to your own private network within your data center. And then the other deployment model that we're going to be introducing is the on-premise, where you can set aside certain resources within your own data center and Bluemix will run within that data center. So we've got the public, the dedicated running on our public cloud, or the option to move Bluemix onto your own premises.